Okay, so for day 4, we're going to look at solving quadratic inequalities. One thing that you need to know is that you must do something called partition the number line when you have an inequality degree 2 or higher. So, if you have an x squared, an x cubed, an x to the 4th, that's degree 2 or higher, right? So if we look at this first one, I would have to factor. So I want what multiplies to 6 but adds to -1. So 3, 2, minus 3, plus 2. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to think about what makes each of these factors 0. That you are going to put on a number line. So with the first factor, x minus 3, what would make that 0 is 3. What would make the next factor 0 is -2. Then, since I just want to know where this is less, where this product of x minus 3 and x plus 2 is less than 0, not equal to 0, that means I do not want to count these. I want to have an open circle because it does not say equal to. Okay, then what we like to do to show our work, put the x minus 3 down here, the x plus 2 here, and we do something called partitioning the number line. So what we do is we pick a number to the left of 2. So kind of like in this region of the number line. Let's say I usually don't go too far. I pick -3. I think of filling -3 into the x minus 3. So if I fill -3 in here, -3 minus 3 is -6. All I care about is the fact that it's negative. I don't really care what the number is. I just care that it's negative. If I put -3 into the x plus 2, -3 plus 2 is a -1. All I care about it's negative. Now, if you think up top, what we're doing, we're multiplying these two things. I'm multiplying x minus 3 times the x plus 2. So I want to think, when I multiply a negative and a negative, what do I get? I get a positive. So overall, when I fill in, a -3 in here, I get a negative, a -3 in here, I get a negative. Overall, that's positive. I want to know that because I want to know where this thing is less than 0. Less than 0 means it's negative. Okay, in between -2 and 3, let's say I pick 0. Anytime I can pick 0, I pick 0. So 0 in the x minus 3 is going to be negative, right? 0 minus 3 is negative. 0 plus 2 is positive. Overall, that's a negative. A negative times a positive is negative. So I'm saying this part here is negative when I put in 0. This part here is positive. Ultimately, when I multiply that, I'm going to get a negative. Okay, the last part to the right of 3, I pick something like 4. That would be plus, that would be plus, which is overall plus. Now, after you show this work, you have to decide, where's your answer? I want to know again where this product is less than 0. Oops, that looks like less than or equal to now. But I want to know where that is less than 0. So I want to know ultimately where the answer was negative. So that's this part of my number line between -2 and 3. That's where I have the negative above the number line. So from -2 to 3 is my answer. Anything from -2 to 3, that product is going to be less than 0. So -4, x squared minus 2x minus 24 greater than 0. I'm going to factor 6 and 4 minus 6 plus 4 on the number line is going to be whatever makes those 0. So a -4 and a +6. Open circle again because it doesn't say greater than or equal to 0. We don't want where it equals 0. So that's why I'm leaving those open. I put my factors down. I partition. To the left of -4, I'd pick -5. -5 in here is negative. -5 plus 4 is negative. A negative times a negative is positive. I'm saying times because that's what we're doing to these factors. We're multiplying them. Okay. In between -4 and 6, I'd pick 0. This is negative. 0. This is positive. Right? 0 plus 4 is positive. Overall, that's negative. If I put 7, something to the right of 6, like 7, that's positive, which is positive. Now, here I want to know where the factors, the product of those factors is greater than 0. So I want to know where it's positive. So I want this part of the number line where my answer is positive. So my answer is -infinity to -4, 6 to infinity. (3x squared plus 4x plus 1) greater than or equal to 0. Factor. 3 is prime, 1 is prime. So the only factors to give me 3 are 3x and x. The only factors that are going to give me 1 is 1 and 1. I need my outers and inners to give me a 4. So plus and plus. See my outer 3x, my inner 1x. Those will add to 4 if they're both positive. Okay, so now if you need to go off to the side and think, okay, 3x plus 1, what makes that equal to 0? -1/3. So this factor, this x plus 1, what makes that 0 is -1. What makes the first factor 0 is -1/3. Okay, so then I put my factors down and I partition. To the left of -1, I'm going to pick -2. If I put a -2 in there, I get what? -6 plus 1. Putting it into the 3x plus 1, I get -6 plus 1, which is negative. Put -2 into the x plus 1, that is negative. Overall, that gives me a positive. In between, I'm going to have to pick maybe like -2/3. So let's see, if I'm filling into 3x plus 1, and I'm filling in -2/3, that is a -1, which all I care about is it's negative. If I put into x plus 1, -2/3, plus 1, which I could say is 3/3, I get 1/3 as an answer, which is positive. So overall, negative times a positive is negative. Then I would take something to the right of a -1/3. That's where I could pick 0. This would be positive. This would be positive. which is positive. Sometimes people start noticing the signs are alternating. That doesn't always happen. In a lot of them, it'll happen. But, you do have to be careful. So greater than or equal to 0. Well, first of all, equal to 0, we want these colored in. Sometimes people call those the critical points, the points you're putting on the number line. If I have equal 0, this is where they equal 0. Greater than 0 is where I have the plus above the number line. So my answer, negative infinity to negative 1, hard bracket, negative 1/3 to infinity. Hard brackets on the, negative 1 and the negative 1/3. Okay, next one, let's see. We'd have to FOIL this. So that'd be x squared plus 6x plus 9. Greater than or equal to, we got to distribute here, 2x squared plus 14. Move everything to one side. Negative x squared plus 6x minus 5. Now remember, we do not factor if the leading coefficient is a negative. So I would have to divide by a negative 1. And then I would get x squared minus 6x plus 5. Remember, in an inequality, if you multiply or divide by a negative, you must flip your inequality sign. So now I want what multiplies to 5 adds to negative 6. So I want 5 and 1, both minus. Okay, so on my number line, I would have 1, 5. I'm going to color in because that's where they equal 0, and this does say less than or equal to 0. To the left of 1, I'd pick 0, so this is negative, which is overall positive. In between 1 and 5, I'd pick like maybe 2. That's negative, that's positive. Yeah, 2 minus 1, right, would be a positive 1. So that's overall negative. And then to the right of 5, I'd pick 6, which would make both those positive. Less than or equal to 0. Less than means I want the negative part above the number line because that's where my answer to the product is. So my answer would be from 1 to 5. Okay, examples 5 and 6 we'll look at tomorrow, because what should you do if you cannot factor the polynomial you are given? You are going to need to solve graphically. So 5 and 6, I should say, we will look at live in class with the calculator. Okay, that's it for day 4.